Thank you very much, Doxy. Good morning, everybody. I'm delighted to be here at the Senior Wellness Center here in Ward 7. And I want to thank Elise Nichols, who is the long director here. And every time I come in here, which is fairly frequently, she's extremely well received by the folks who are here. And I want to thank all the folks. I want to thank everybody for being here this morning. Good morning, Ms. Woody. How are you? How's that? Thank you very much. Tom, you've always been that kind of guy, Tom. And I want you to know how much I appreciate it. How'd you get that center seat like that? I see. Only Tom Sherwood would do that, right? In any event, we're here to announce some new initiatives to support our aging population and to talk about how we are bringing to fruition our commitment to seniors. I think we know that there are 100,000 people who fit the definition of being a senior here in the District of Columbia, and they, while not spread equally across the city, they are spread across the city. I think the ward with the largest number is around 16,000 people, and ranges anywhere from, I think, 12, 13,000 up to about 16,000. I want to recognize our deputy mayor, who is extremely hardworking. She has some of the most challenging agencies in the city. If she doesn't like what she's working on, just wait a minute, because it'll be something else. And that, of course, is Deputy Mayor for Health and Human Services, Bibi OTERO. Bibi. You're going to hear from her, and you're also going to hear from Dr. Thompson, who is the Executive Director of the Office on Aging. And he's going to talk about, along with Deputy Mayor OTERO, the goals that we're seeking to achieve with this strategic plan, which we've been talking about for a while now. I think if you look at the One City Action Plan, you'll see that there are only 3 goals. And one of those goals is to be able to improve the quality of life for all residents, no matter where people live, no matter what the neighborhood is, and no matter what their age is. And so this is what this plan is about today. It focuses on suitable housing, quality health care, and the necessities and amenities of life. And that's why I directed the DC Office on Aging to undertake a senior needs assessment. It's actually, believe it or not, it's the first such assessment that we've had since 1978. What would that be, 34 years? I guess we do that every 34 years, right, to find out what people need. It obviously won't happen that way again. The proper frequency would probably be every 2 or 3 years, so that we confirm, reaffirm where we are. And so we have a strategic plan that we've developed for community living in what we're referring to as an age-friendly city. The study was designed to analyze the current needs of older Washingtonians, how services are delivered to them, and what's missing that they need. The data provided through the report will allow DCOA and its senior service network to address the needs of current seniors and the future needs of the district's growing population of baby boomers who are now moving through. There are 4 goals, and you're going to hear more about those. Goal 1 is that we will be an age-friendly city, and we're going to be working with AARP, right, Lewis? Yeah, we'll be working with AARP on that. An urban environment that is inclusive, accessible, and encourages active and healthy. Mr. Howell, didn't you know better than to walk in front of Mr. Sherwood?
I walked in front of you, Mr. Mayor.
I said, oh, excuse me. It was all right with me, Tom.
The cable guy's getting upset about
it. The second goal is that every senior will be linked to appropriate high-quality resources, ensuring independent, productive living in the community. And frankly, when you think about 100,000 people, if that is not a goal, then there's absolutely no way we will ever meet the needs if they're looked at through a prism of we've got to be able to provide dependent, if you will, living for people who are getting older in the city. Third goal is all seniors will have access to nutritional meals, physical and recreational activities, and be financially prepared for retirement and long-term care needs. If you walk through this facility, you will see that there is a room here where there's a lot of exercise that goes on and various and sundry other opportunities. And then the fourth goal is to have government create and strengthen partnerships to implement innovative practices and improve senior services here in the city. As a part of the first goal, the district will join 7 states, and we are formally committing to do that in a pilot program as a part of the AARP network of age-friendly communities. The Age-Friendly City program was established by the World Health Organization, and we can probably give you information if you wish on the other states that are involved in this. An age-friendly city is an inclusive and accessible urban environment that encourages active and healthy living for persons of all ages, which of course is a worthy purpose. The goal of an age-friendly city is to provide a system to educate, encourage, promote, and recognize improvements that make communities more user-friendly, not only for their older residents, but people of all ages. And I think if you look with what we've done on the other end of the spectrum for our very young children up through young adulthood, I think you will see that we're trying to touch every age group along the way. Again, I want to thank Louis Davis for working with us. He's the state director for AARP in the District of Columbia, for selecting the District of Columbia to be a part of this, along with, I guess, 7 other states, this worthwhile initiative and something that really builds on what we're already doing. Deputy Mayor OTERO, among the many things for which she's responsible, will put together an age-friendly city task force and develop and oversee the execution of a 3-year action plan for this program, with the support, of course, of Dr. Thompson and the Office of Aging. And this is the document that you will receive today, which starts to establish the framework for how we will move forward. We've been working on this for a while, so this is the succinct version of a lot of work that's going on that also is steeped in better understanding now, more contemporary understanding of the needs of seniors of Columbia. So with that initial, those initial comments having been made, let me call on Deputy Mayor OTERO now, who's going to speak to you, and then she'll be followed by Dr. Thompson.
Tom, can I lower this? Okay, thanks. Just want to make sure we were okay, because I know who's running the show. Good morning, everybody, and thank you so much. Look at this room full. It is really wonderful to have everyone here, and I want to thank the mayor for his commitment to one city, and that one city commitment means everyone in the city, all ages and all backgrounds, all affiliations. I think it is really commendable, and we, all of us, in the roles as deputy mayors and directors of agencies, have really taken on the task to make sure that we're doing that work. I want to thank the staff at the Office of Aging for their incredible work. I know John is here, and Camille and others, for making sure that we begin to really take the work of the Office of Aging into the next generation. And that means a number of different changes and a number of different direction. And I want to thank the Commission, and particularly Romaine Thomas, for agreeing to once again serve and play the leadership role that she's agreed to play. So thank you very much for your commitment. I know you've been committed to this work for a long, long time, so I'm very glad to have an opportunity to work with you again. The document that the mayor shared has been a long work over the last year by the staff and by the commission and by lots of other folks to make sure that we not only strengthen the work of the office, but that we take the services that the Office of Aging has traditionally provided, that we strengthen them and we put them in the community, and that we put them as close to where our community is, and both through the wellness centers and through the lead agencies. So you will see a lot more of that rolling. But it is important for us to make sure that seniors and folks who are entering that stage of life, some of us closer than others, are able to access not just medical, but also recreational and fitness. It is those things that will allow people to remain in their neighborhoods, in their communities longer. And really our goal is to make sure that that is what folks can do. If they want to stay in their community, if they want to build a community set of resources around them, we are here to help do that and to make sure that folks can stay and live in their community as long as they wish to, and as close to their families and their friends and so on. The age-friendly community strategy and the network that we are joining is one more way to make sure that we address the mayor's strategy, which is integrated services model across the city, not just for one age group, but for everyone. And so for me, this is a very exciting opportunity. I'm excited to work with Louis on this and to make sure that we integrate services across, and that every time we have an initiative, Sustainable DC, whether it's any other initiative around the city, that we ask, so how does this fit for every stage of life for people in our community so that they can remain? So I'm excited to do this, and I think it's a long time coming. I know that we've been asked by all of the senior community to make sure that we are more visible in how we are addressing those issues. As the city grows in its younger population, we want to make sure that those who have been living here and carrying the load also feel that this is their city and that they're able to remain close to their home and friends. Thank you very much.
Good morning. I'm so delighted for this day to be here, and I'm so delighted for the mayor's leadership and for the deputy mayor for your wisdom and for your vision and for the support to the Office on Aging and for the seniors across this district, and also the AARP for being here today and making this partnership a success as we move forward, and for the work that you've done with us during the past years. Also want to recognize our commissioners on aging. So we have a number of commissioners on aging. If you would just raise your hand. So our commissioners please give them a round of applause. Our commissioners played a huge role in helping us to develop this strategic plan. They were with us every step of the way as we developed that needs assessment and bolstered certain sections to make sure that we got the necessary data that we need. And the senior needs assessment told us those things that we already knew. We had the anecdotal evidence, but we didn't have the empirical data to support what we were doing. And so it tells us some very interesting things that you may already know. That we have a food insecurity issue in the District of Columbia impacting our seniors. That we have a lack of transportation for our seniors who need transportation to recreation activities. The DC Office on Aging only focuses on transportation for those seniors going to life-sustaining medical appointments. But what about recreational activities? As I often tell folks across the district, if a senior did something when he or she was in their 50s, more than likely they want to do it in their 60s. A bowling club, whether it's going to the grocery store, but lack of transportation shouldn't be the issue that keep these seniors in their homes, that lead to social isolation. So again, I want to thank the mayor and the deputy mayor for their vision to ensuring that this office conducted a needs assessment. Yes, it's been 34 years, but it won't happen again. As it says, once you get your copy of that needs assessment, this is only the beginning. It is a living document. We must use the data in there as the baseline data and moving the agency forward. So that is why we have the 4 strategic goals. We're working closely with AARP with the first goal in making this an age-friendly city. Goal number 2, our focus is ensuring that the services that seniors, persons with disabilities, and family caregivers need are close to them. So we're moving our Aging and Disability Resource Center into the community. And you see our banner that's behind me. So we want to make sure, and our ADRC is the focal point in the community in ensuring that those individuals that need long-term services and supports receive those services when they need it. We have social workers who serve as the navigators. So no longer should someone call a governmental agency and have to call 2 or 3 different numbers, 2 or 3 different agencies trying to figure out what they need. It is our job as the government to help them to link to those services. And so we work with our community-based organizations, such as East River Family Strengthening Collaborative, to ensuring that we get those services in place for those seniors and persons with disabilities. Goal number 3, to tackle food insecurity, to ensuring that we have wellness programs across the district for seniors. Yes, we have seniors who prefer to come to this wellness center. Then we have seniors who prefer to go to a Department of Parks and Recreation facility. Our job is not to minimize the number of facilities, but to offer those services, because we understand the statistics tell us those individuals who receive the necessary services to be physically active, to be mentally active, they will live a long life. There's a chance to tackle social isolation once again. And the last goal is to focus on doing new projects, developing new ways of doing things better. It is having those strategic partnerships, innovative practices. Intergenerational program, I was at an event with the mayor last week. He spoke about intergenerational programs. Why can't we get our seniors involved with early childhood education in the District of Columbia, where those seniors who are retired teachers or who have a passion for helping the younger folks, why can't we get them in the classroom to give that helping hand to the teachers? And also, the data tell us it will tackle the issue of social isolation for the seniors. And at the same time, the young ones will have an opportunity to understand the rich history and gain the wisdom of the older folks. And so this is our opportunity of moving DC Office on Aging forward as we continue to do our job in serving seniors, persons with disabilities, and family caregivers. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Otero and Director Thompson. You know, Dr. Thompson used the term, we are a society of euphemisms, aren't we? Now the latest one, he didn't start, but now it's food insecurity. Food insecurity. You know, I was crass enough to say stuff like, I don't know where my next meal was coming from. So I think that's what it means. And it's not Dr. Thompson's term either. It's now a term of art in the field. So if you have food insecurity, eat. In any event, one of the concepts that we're going to build on, and it really resonates with me because of my history in the field of disabilities. By the way, I want to recognize too that we've been joined by our Ward 7 council member, who's now here with us. My council member representing Ward 7, of course, that's Council Member Yvette Alexander. Thank you, Council Member, for being here. The early part of my career was spent in working with people with disabilities and working, frankly, to try to create community living opportunities. We really were battling against institutional care, which now, unfortunately, is a thing of the past. We don't have institutions for people with developmental disabilities or cognitive disabilities anymore in this city. There are still places that do. And we don't want to create similar environments for people who are getting older, because we don't seem to have other options. And so we have GAIL KOHN, who's with us today. She's a nationally recognized leader in aging services. And she's the founding director of the Capitol Hill Village. And the villages, I don't know whether we have 10 or 15, but we have a growing number of villages here in the city. And the senior villages actually is something I've paid a lot of attention to, and will be an inherent part, a key part of what we're doing with this effort. Simply put, it's actually helping people to stay where they are. And instead of taking people to services, it's bringing the services to people, which is a far more humane and human thing to do, and frankly, from a financial perspective, is a lot more economical and sound than what we've done in the past. You know, one need only go into nursing homes and places of the like, skilled nursing facilities, to see it. Even those that are extremely well run, they really have a hospital feel about them. And I don't think people should wind up in places like that simply because we haven't figured out how to create options. And that's what we are beginning to do, and we will continue to do. So, Gail, come on up and talk to us a little bit about that movement that we're involved in now.
Well, I very much appreciate the opportunity to be here to commend our DC leaders for what they have done. This community-focused strategic plan has the potential of accomplishing the vision of our own seniors and the World Health Organization vision of age-friendly cities. With its new strategic plan, Washington, D.C. has set the course to become an even more age-friendly model for the nation. The D.C. Office on Aging has woven its freshly completed D.C. Senior Needs Assessment with the World Health Organization's internationally recognized standards for age-friendly cities. The plan sets the stage for addressing citizen concerns, programmatic omissions, and service improvements. The organization for which I was the founding executive director, Capitol Hill Village, just celebrated its 5th birthday with 370 members and 275 volunteers. Mayor Gray, then head of the DC Council, was honored at was the honored speaker at our launch 5 years ago. Capitol Hill Village's mission to sustain and enrich the community of Capitol Hill residents for the long term is important to this particular initiative. We make it possible for our members to stay in their homes and enjoy the camaraderie of neighbors throughout their lives. 89% of the time, Capitol Hill Village volunteers fulfill the requests of members without guilt, because the volunteers can say no, and another volunteer will do what needs to be done. Wellness programs give members the means to stay well. When health crises occur, Capitol Hill Village helps members get back home after hospitalizations and stay there, not go back to the hospital. Now, at this point, there are an uncertain number of villages being created in this particular city. We have more villages in our city than any other city in the country. That's amazing, isn't it? All of us want to stay throughout our lives among familiar places and faces, and that's not as easy as it sounds. A handful of older adults, less than 5%, feel it is their duty to move away to retirement communities, so they're not a burden on their families or society. The rest want to stay where they've lived for decades. But when accidents and debilitating illnesses invariably happen, seniors often are guided by the health care system and their relatives toward assisted living and nursing homes miles away from their neighborhoods. Out of love and other priorities, families often feel they must resort to institutions to take care of their parents. We want to change that with the DC Office on Aging. The National Council and Center for Black Aged, Stoddard Baptist Services, Capitol Hill Village, and the Greenhouse Project have been working with DC government on a plan to embed small, skilled nursing homes in neighborhoods. When accidents and debilitating ailments happen, small embedded skilled nursing homes in many neighborhoods could make it possible for even the frailest to remain in familiar surroundings throughout life. With the support of volunteers associated with neighborhood villages, those who have moved to neighborhood small skilled nursing homes can continue to live among the well-known houses, streets, and businesses while staying involved with those who know their names and their history. We are proud to be part of this amazing work, with so much population ahead of us, growing population, some moving to the District of Columbia because we're such a special city. Thank you again for adopting a plan that can be expected to move DC from number 14, most livable city, according to the Economist magazine, to number 1. Thank you.
We are going to be number 1 because it's the right thing to do. You know, I again, not to be repetitive, but I hope this isn't lost on folks. This is a fundamental shift that we're talking about, and that is moving to increasingly move resources into the community away from institutional type care. You know, we have discussions about Medicaid, have discussions about Medicare, have discussions about SSI, Social Security. All of those are going to be impacted by this. And I think this is a movement that over time will take off nationally. I'm absolutely convinced that this is going to work. We've got some models that we've been able to look at now for a little bit of time, and we're going to build upon that. I want to be able to be the city that people come to know what community living means for people who are moving along in age. You know, from a personal perspective, my mother lived until she was in her 90s a few years ago, and frankly, I know that a big factor in that was her being able to stay in her natural environs, that she didn't have to go to an out-of-home placement to, you know, a nursing home. And that was because we were able, especially my brother, was able to be able to ensure that she was provided care day in and day out. We can do that, and it doesn't have to be family members in many instances. It can be people who want to live together. As we look at, you know, some of our large houses that people own, and they get down to one person, we can bring 2 or 3 or 4 people together who may want to live together, and that shared living will be a support system for those folks. So I know we're going in the right direction. I don't mean that with any sense of arrogance. I just happen to know from my own professional experience and my own personal experience that this is the right direction to go. And in fact, at the federal level, we have, I guess, fairly recently changed the name to one of our departments to the Administration on Community Living in the Department of Health and Human Services. And I want to commend the federal government for that name. It is a powerful statement and a powerful commitment, and we have Robert Logan here today to talk a little bit about how we will be working with them to make this happen. Well.
Well, the mayor took the first part of my speech by telling you about the name change. So thank you for that. We salute Mayor Gray and the DC Office on Aging, John Thompson, for their leadership in initiating the needs assessment. John, your words were music to my ears when you talked about the integration of service and the work of ADRC. To achieve your focus of older adults living a quality and independent life in DC, it is imperative that you have up-to-date, accurate information on this population. Your newly completed needs assessment will help you achieve your goal of creating a service delivery system that will enable you to meet the challenges of older adults in the future. 1978 was a long time ago. I was a young man starting my career serving the older adult population in Cincinnati. Now, mind you, Reds fan then, but I'm a Nats fan now. This has caused some problems in my family, but I believe in supporting the team of the town you live in. Today's older population is not only growing, but it is becoming more diverse, with numbers of all racial and ethnic groups projected to increase significantly over the 20 years. Our diverse elders will need a support system that is flexible, with people-centered assistance that is effective and respects a wide range of tradition, culture, history, and individual characteristics and frailties. Value self-determination. I see the next 20 years of our growing, aging population not fraught with overly burdensome challenges, but as ripe with new opportunities. When people ask me what I like about DC, I love the diversity. That's very special to me. We will continue work with the DC Office on Aging and build upon what we have learned and achieved over the past 50 years of helping frail older persons with the disabilities, their caregivers, and their caregivers receive low-cost, non-medical services and support. These supports are critical for providing the means by which individuals can remain out of institutions and live independently in their community as long as possible. I know the DC Office on Aging and the city, the District of Columbia, is up to meeting these challenges, and we look forward to the continued partnership. Thank you.
It's all right. Just make sure you don't walk in front of Sherwood. Yeah, well, it already happened in here. Let me acknowledge that we've been joined by Council Member at Large, Michael Brown. Thank you very much for coming out, Council Member Brown. We appreciate that. And isn't it great to see those Cincinnati fans being converted to Nats fans? I used to be a Cincinnati fan too, you know, when we didn't have a baseball team. The Big Red Machine, everybody remember that? Yeah, well, the Big Red Machine is right here in D.C. now. All right, I'm going to ask our final speaker to come up, and in so doing, I'm going to present him formally with our letter of commitment to work on this issue. I was sitting there thinking that with the D.C. Office on Aging, maybe we should be the D.C. Office of Aging and Community Living also. We want to send the message about what this is really about. And this is about community living, living in neighborhoods and communities, not living in institutions. We're going to look at that also as we move forward on this. So please join me in welcoming Louis Davis. I've known Louis for a long time. He's been a trooper, to say the least. I don't know how many years he's been involved in this work here in the District of Columbia. But Louis, we want to welcome you. We look forward to working even more closely with you, and I'm certainly not going to read all of this, but let it suffice it to say that this is these are 4 paragraphs of commitment to do this, and we have made sure to contain all the proper euphemisms in here. I don't think we have food insecurity in here, though. Please join me in welcoming Louis Davis.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you, Mayor Gray, for your continuing commitment to the future of Washington, D.C., the nation's capital. Today, I am prouder than ever to be a part of an organization like AARP. which is convening the local governments and establishing a network of age-friendly cities around this country. I am equally proud to say AARP is embarking on this journey with my city, the District of Columbia. Thank you again, Mayor Gray, for delivering this letter and taking the next step forward to establishing a district as an age-friendly city. Being an age-friendly city is an opportunity for the district to evaluate the environmental, economic, and social factors that influence well-being for people of all ages. These might include family networks, recent economic developments in neighborhoods, and distance to certain amenities like grocery stores. It is also an opportunity to take up new solutions that will advance what the World Health Organization calls the 8 domains of civic life. Government agencies will be able to come together with businesses, faith communities, nonprofit organizations, and other community stakeholders to deliberate on the best ways to enrich the natural and built infrastructures that improve the quality of life for people of all ages. Being an age-friendly city also gives the district access to a global network with a rich bank of age-friendly best practices and the experiences of towns and cities around the world. They number more than 33. In addition to New York City and Portland, Oregon, other cities, large, like Philadelphia, and small, like Macon, Bibb County, Georgia, have joined this network with AARP and are poised to share their experiences with the mayor and the deputy mayor. AARP is excited to facilitate this sharing, starting with a special online portal for city officials and a forum in December that the mayor is invited to, and the deputy mayor and anyone else they assign. At this symposium will be an opportunity for those who are engaged in the process to share best practices and commune with one another. We will also make available our deep reservoir of policy experience and a cadre of dedicated volunteers right here in the District of Columbia. So what would the district look like after 5 years of planning and implementations? If done right, it will look like no other city. The beauty of age-friendly cities is that it utilizes an interpretive process whereby the needs and interests of the residents are transformed into an actionable plan. We do envision concrete changes like affordable housing that can accommodate grandparents raising grandchildren, and cultural resource guides that cater to the 50+. But we also envision an age-friendly DC in which persons of all abilities are able to access the many great features of this great city. And a new ethos is created that naturally supports people as they age. AARP DC is forged to work with the mayor, the deputy mayor, Dr. Thompson at the Office on Aging, and all city agencies, because they all will be required to step up, to engage with residents, our 86,000 members in the District of Columbia, the faith community, the business sector, in making and establishing our hometown as an age-friendly city, the nation's capital. It will be that shining star. Together we can work to help make our city everything we want it to be. Thank you again.
All right. We'll be happy now to take any questions or comments. I really think we're going to do that. What do you think about changing the name? Community living is the heart of where we're going with this. Absolutely. Yeah. I like to make decisions in public. It's transparency, right, Tom?
Yes, sir. Let's try a little. May I ask the first question? Are you ready for questions?
Yes, sir. You always seem to get the first one.
I was a middle child. I had to fight.
Did you have food insecurity?
I might even vote for you again. If you eliminate that saying, and I'll never hear it again. I've already tweeted it out with a X on it. Since you have two council members here who are up for, I was just wondering, the election's short time away. Are you going to endorse any council members who are running for
now, this is on this initiative. Yes.
I thought we were done with that.
No.
I thought that was thorough. I have no question.
So do you like the new initiative?
I'm old. I like all things focusing on old.
Now, this has got to be media, you all. This has got to be media. All right. Okay.
What does the strategic plan do to address the increasingly perverse?
I'll repeat the question. He doesn't have a microphone.
The increasingly perverse problem of senior homeowners losing their homes to tax sales, who are becoming increasingly isolated because of medical issues and the same issues that were mentioned earlier, and the lack of access to technology when dealing with the Office of Tax and Revenue and the rest of the bureaucracy that makes it very challenging to deal with the foreclosure problem.
Everybody get that one? I think succinctly put, he's asking about financial protection for seniors, especially around their homes and access to technology. Is that right?
No, specifically the problem of foreclosures, tax sales.
Yeah, I was trying to put an umbrella on it. Yeah, foreclosures. I don't think this plan is designed to directly address that. However, I think in creating these senior villages, as we bring people together, it's going to create more financial security in the lives of people because they will have better access, one, to resources to be able to help pay for their homes. That's why I mentioned the idea of people coming together, 2 or 3 or 4 people coming together in a home that one person otherwise might not be able to afford. And one of the things that we are continuously looking at, that Dr. Thompson and Deputy Mayor OTERO are working on, is how we provide more financial management support for our seniors here in the District of Columbia. And I think if we have I'll say a common initiative that we're trying to pursue, like community living in this instance, it will create more of a focal point. I don't know how many case managers or, whatever we have in DC Office on Aging, but they're going to be trained in this new approach. And the issue that you raised will be one of those things that will be essential, because can't retain where they live now, it's going to undermine our ability to really move forward with this concept. I avoided the term quote-unquote group home because that has a certain connotation. I'm not really talking about group homes. I'm talking about people who have relationships living together in the same place. Now, that's different than a group home to me. Oftentimes, group homes are places that are funded by the government. People don't necessarily have a choice in the other 4 or 5 people they live with. There will be a lot of choice associated with this, and underpinning that will be what you talked about, and that is being able to ensure better financial management for people who may be at risk of losing their home. On the tax issue, I suspect that we're already providing assistance to folks in that regard. Is that right? Yeah, you want to talk a little bit about that?
That's a great question. In fact, our general counsel in the back, Deborah Royster, works very closely with Legal Counsel for the Elderly, which is operated by AARP. And I was in court just a couple of weeks ago in tax court dealing with this same issue. And so I wanted to get a firsthand experience of what our seniors are dealing with in the District of Columbia. And so what we're doing is Deborah is working closely with them and with some attorneys from law firms who are doing some pro bono work to see how we can modify the legislation to better support our seniors, to ensure that they don't lose their homes because of something they did not read or something they threw away, whatever the case may be. But we understand it's a small issue to some. However, it becomes very big when that senior can't pay $2,000, which grows to $5,000, $10,000. So we're addressing that issue as well. Thank you so much.
I think that's an excellent question, and it really will help to focus our energies and efforts, because the village concept cannot be successful where there may be financial insecurity in the lives of people. It's just fundamental to being able to move forward. And again, I think, we're talking about macro programs when we talk about Medicare and Medicaid and SSI and SSDI, not so much SSDI in this instance, but certainly Social Security benefits. But I think it will make better use of the dollars that people have available to them through those programs. Other questions on this new effort? Okay. Tom?
Well, Mr. Mayor, we're coming up on the election. We have 2 council members in the room who are running for.
Can I mention one other thing before we get to that? Yeah, thank you.
3rd time we get charged.
Yeah, it gives me 3 times to think of the answer.
I thought of that. It better be good.
Well, who determines whether it's good or not?
I do.
I wanted to mention three other things, three pieces of really good news. Some of you may know about this. We just got awarded a grant. There's a $200+ million national education program through the U.S. Department of Education, for which we applied, to upgrade teacher and principal and administrator skills, and to support them in a lot of ways, including bonuses being given to people for performance. In any event, we were awarded a grant of a 5-year grant of $62 million for the District of Columbia. There were, not every state got a grant. There are only 34 grantees in addition to us. And the District of Columbia, again, got the largest grant in the nation for this program. So we're very excited about that. It will continue to help us build our reform efforts here in the city. We also, which is not necessarily followed all that closely by a lot of people because it's so eye-glazing, and that is healthcare reform and the work for the under the Affordable Care Act, as some people call it, Obamacare. We have moved forward apace. We were already involved in trying to create universal health care in the city even before the law was passed, and we've continued to move in that regard. We got a couple of grants in the beginning. We got a $1 million grant, and we got an $8 million grant to be able to develop this, and we've moved along so well at this stage that last week we were notified by the Department of Health and Human Services that in order to continue our technology infrastructure, operating structure for the whole market system that has to be put in place, the District of Columbia was a $73 million grant to be able to move forward. A lot of this will be invested in technology, especially to make our system, to the extent that we need to, compatible with our own eligibility determination system here in the city. Some of you may be familiar, I'm sure David is, with ACEDS. That was actually a very early system that we developed. I was the director of DHS when we started working on ACEDS, and it's been upgraded many times since. But to some extent, it will help with eligibility as well, this grant. So again, $73 million. And we also got an award from the our DHS Economic Security Administration, got an award from the SNAP program, which is the food stamp program. Isn't it great when you have a program name and you have to call it by the other name because nobody will know what the new name is? The Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, another one of those euphemisms, AKA food stamps, all right? So we got an award. It's the first time in the city, that our city has gotten this particular award, even though we've been recognized before. We were in the group of most improved states for the SNAP, i.e. food stamp program, and we got a monetary award of $450,000 associated with that as well. So we, of course, had a surplus that we found out about last week, $140 million that will go to the stabilization fund, which I was involved in doing the legislation, and council members Alexander worked with me when I was on the council to set up the stabilization fund. So I think if you add all of those up, you'll get somewhere in the neighborhood of $250 to $300 million that came into the city over the last 2-3 weeks. So hopefully we'll keep on rolling in that direction. Anybody see that Bloomberg named us the #3 city in the nation? I got a feeling what one of the other two is, but now, Tom.
Okay, third time. November 6th election, 2 council members in the room. Are you going to endorse anyone? If not, why not?
I really haven't even thought about it, Tom, and therefore I've not even thought about why I would or why I wouldn't. And I have not had a conversation with either Councilmember Brown or Councilmember Alexander about endorsements. So would you all like to have a discussion about that at a later point? Sure, why not? All right. Would you like to have a discussion about that? All right. I will talk to them about that, Tom. Thank you for that suggestion.
Mr. Mayor, are you undecided?
Am I undecided?
Yes.
Well, I have to talk about them. I don't want to have vote insecurity.
You agree in the Ward 7 race, you're undecided in the Ward 7
I
race?
just, well, the question, wait a minute. You're just piggybacking on Mr. Sherwood's question. I understand that,
For
Mark.
15 years.
But why do you let him always go first?
You pick the order of the questions.
He raised his hand before you did.
Age.
You raised
It's an
your
age
hand
thing.
after he asked the question.
It's an age thing.
Oh. Are you going to take that?
Unfortunately, it's true.
I really haven't thought about endorsements. It's something about the primary that gets one's attention, and then you get to the general, and it isn't, I don't tend to think of it in the same way. So I'll be happy to, if you all would like to have that conversation, I'll be happy to have the conversation with both of you.
Maybe we should ask, do they want your endorsement?
Well, she just said she'd be happy to have my endorsement. Did you hear her?
Y'all want to stand together?
I promise you that not later than November 7th.
All right, we're running out of time. I have another question. Somebody else has one.
Anybody else have any other questions? Mark? He didn't ask it yet.
I'm anticipating his questions. The Nationals playoffs, the costs associated with that in the Post today reported that it would be about 76 police officers per game. Are those numbers correct as far as you know? Because there's an internal memo through the police department at Teletype that lists the numbers that have been requested for deployment, up to more than 400 officers per game, depending on once you get to the World Series. So there seems to be a disconnect between the numbers you released to the Post yesterday and what is on this internal teletype that MPD is operating off of.
I haven't seen the internal teletype. How do you get access to that kind of information?
Sherwood.
I haven't seen any internal teletype, but we don't have any reason to think that we've been, privy to our. And by the way, it's not just the 76. It's not just police officers. That's a whole host of, government folks that will work on behalf of the playoffs. So I think it's 65 to 76 or something like that is the range that we expect.
Officers coming out of the neighborhoods?
That'll be the chief's job to deploy. I mean, remember that during the season we have maybe not as many, but we have police officers that are deployed as well as DDOT folks and others who are deployed to games as well. So I have every confidence that the chief will deploy officers in the most responsible way.
And earlier, you had said previously, and the chief had said publicly, that the learners should pick up the tab for the additional police officers that are required for the street closures and things around the stadium. Why have you now decided that the taxpayers should pick up that tab?
I didn't decide that. If you go back and look at the agreement, there's an agreement that says that what goes on inside the stadium is the responsibility of the owners. What goes on outside the stadium is the responsibility of the city, and that's the way it's operated since the new stadium opened. So we're just continuing what already exists.
Do you have numbers on what kind of revenue the city will get in, either from tax revenue, from sales, what this means as far as revenue for the city itself and for businesses in the city?
Yeah, I don't have precise numbers, Mark. We'll be working on that, obviously, but I'm absolutely certain that there'll be enough to cover the cost of this. I mean, every city that I know of is ecstatic about having something like this. I've actually never heard the discussion to this extent in any other city, maybe because I wasn't there, but, Philadelphia, Atlanta, all of these cities, New York, that have hosted playoffs after playoff after playoff, those cities are absolutely ecstatic. And I would just ask that we focus on what I think is phenomenal, and that is for the first time in 79 years, the District of Columbia has a team in postseason play in Major League Baseball. That is phenomenal.
Mr. Mayor, I want to ask the broader question. What is the city doing to be ready? Because this is a big stage that the team is on, but that the city will be on. You've had lots of demonstrations, you've had inaugurations, you have had all these things. But how is it different for this baseball, the community, for the people who live around there? What is the city doing to prepare? I know there have been meetings with the city administrator and CFO talking about it. But just give the people a big picture of is the city going to be ready, which I think you'd say yes, but how is it going to be ready?
Yeah, I think you need to remember this too, Tom, that we've been having sellouts now a good bit of the season because the team has played so well. So we know that there won't be more than the 40,000+ people in the stadium. So we won't be, won't be overrun by more people to speak of because that's all the capacity of the stadium. I think we will probably have more press here, and I think DCRA is working with the team to try to accommodate the press because there naturally would be more because of the gravity of this playoff. Other than that, I'm not sure there's going to be. Well, we certainly will have. Should we win the World Series, we will have a major celebration. You can count on that.
Planned when I'm talking about a spontaneous one, the night of or the day of.
Well, I think our people will behave responsibly, but about police officers that we'll have in the area of the stadium, they will be prepared to deal with, spontaneous celebratory moments. But I have every reason to think that our people, if there is a celebration, it will be done in a good spirit and in an orderly and civil manner. So, Alan, you may want to add, because you've been involved in these discussions already.
Yeah, there are regular games. Will there be more?
Right. There's the bulk of the cost, the additional cost to the city is really DDOT as well as MPD. We've had several meetings with the Nationals, and literally at some of these meetings with the Deputy Mayor of Public Safety, we had it looked like half the cabinet was at these meetings. So the coordination is everything with DPW, with DCRA. We're looking at which streets where they'd have more TV antenna trucks that would arrive as this thing moves forward. And then also we're looking at where we would actually stage and park and unload buses for all the MLB officials and fans. And so there's a lot of logistical issues that we've been focused on, and it's not just some of the issues about who's paying for what. It's getting down on paper, what is it that's going to take place as we go forward. And also there's been discussions about more kind of like fan events. I think we're looking at enhancing the experience on Half Street, when the fans arrive, and creating more activities post game and as well as pre-game. And the possibility of celebrations in the event that they really do get further down.
What about you were talking about streets? What about the neighborhood streets where people live? There are signs saying you can't go down these streets. But that's routinely.
We're also looking at various ways to exit from the area, as well as we're re-looking at the traffic flow and the way it navigates through the surrounding areas as well.
How about, will you allow outside vendors to set up on these additional streets that are being closed? I know the Nationals have asked that they want to put more of their own vendors outside, right? Will you allow other vendors to get permits?
Well, I guess to the extent that they can get permits, and there are areas around the stadium that have been like off limits, and the other thing is the impact on traffic flow. As you put up a lot of these kind of concession areas, then they essentially restrict the width of the roadways and the sidewalks and everything like that.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Yvette Alexander just whispered to me that are there going to be any tickets for the council members? I'm calling her out.
No, we don't have. I don't have tickets for myself, so unfortunately, I can't accommodate anybody on that one.
Will you accept tickets?
Have the Nationals offered to make tickets available for elected officials?
I've not had that conversation with them, so I don't know. Maybe they've been in touch with the office. You talked to them, Chris?
They made the offer.
Okay, they made an offer, which I'm not.
Chris, come up and tell us what the offer is.
Can you come up and tell them what the offer is?
We haven't had a picture of him for a while anyway.
Will there be ticket insecurity?
There's a lot of ticket insecurity around the Wilson Building these days. The Nationals have put out an offer, and I should probably let them share it, but I'll give you a preview. They put out feelers to say whether the mayor and the chairman could attend in their official capacities as leaders of the city. They are putting this through their own ethics council. We would do the same to make sure it's completely appropriate and wouldn't do so otherwise.
So just for the chair and the mayor?
I don't want to speak for them. Those are the conversations I've had with them.
And, okay.
By the way, you know, since we're talking about baseball, wouldn't it be something if we had a World Series between the Nationals and the Orioles? A Parkway Series. How about that one, right? You talk about some trash talking? It'd be some serious trash talking. Yeah, let's see. Alan,
On the teletype that Mark mentioned, I mean, MPD confirmed that the teletype was authentic and that they were planning for these 400 offices. So are you all curbing plans and bringing them back down?
I don't know about the 400 officers. Do you? And I don't know was there a dollar number? I haven't seen the.
It requests up to 2 platoons from every district. These are civil disturbance units
Yeah.
that are being taken out of every one of the 7 districts. Maybe the deputy mayor for public safety
You know, Paul?
knows about this.
What we have done is to make arrangements to cover any eventuality during the playoffs. So we had to put notice into place so that we could have enough members to respond if we need it. So we have civil disturbance units in every district. So we wanted to put them on notice so that if we needed them, they will be in place so that we can use them. So we have a plan that has been structured that Alan has been taking the lead on, the city administrator. We will implement that plan. The number that the mayor spoke of is the primary number of officers that we will use on site. We will have the ability to pull other officers in if needed, but the number that the mayor spoke of, that range of 60 to 75, we will have an appropriate number who will be visible, who will be present at the stadium to make sure that it's secure, that the fans enjoy themselves, that we have a good event, but we will be available to respond if we need to.
This talks about them showing up, being transported to the detail site with their civil disturbance unit gear, gas mask, the whole thing. And you're saying being pulled in, if they're being pulled into that, it sounds like they're being pulled out of the neighborhoods, which I think is the biggest concern for citizens, that this would limit the police presence in the neighborhoods during the game.
There will be no disruption to normal police activities in the neighborhood. We have a plan in place. We have SOD units. We have those officers who are specifically trained in these specific civil defense units. We want to make sure that they have sufficient notice pursuant to the contract that they need to be available. So a lot of this is contractual in nature so that sufficient notice is given so that if we need to pull, we can. And when we pull, we want them to be ready. We don't anticipate that, but it's best to be prepared. All right, thank you.
This is not unlike the inaugural and all the other things that you do.
Right, that's true. In fact, the inaugural was probably on a grander scale, obviously, than this. You're right, Tom. Alan?
I already had one.
Okay.
I'm just wondering if you are pleased with UDC's right-sizing report. It came out a day and a half ago, and there's some serious cuts there, and I wonder if it's enough for you.
I'll be honest with you, Matt. I haven't completely read the report yet. We've just started reviewing it. It is something I'm going to get into fully over the next few days. Chris and I have had a brief discussion about it, but I think it's going in the right direction. I can't really give you an informed answer as to whether it goes as far as it should. The issue is that UDC has been operating, in a really insecure area for a while now. So we hope that this will get it on firm footing. They spent a lot of the reserves over the last few years, and there's very little left of those reserves. So they've now got to do what as the city has done, and that is we live off of what comes in the door, not of what's in the bank, and there'll be very little of that in the future.
They want $21 million to initiate this program. Do you see that that's money well spent if and get the university back on track?
I think we'll have to evaluate that. I mean, a part of it is, I think, a buyout that would then reduce the number of people, some of them who are very long tenured. So we'll evaluate that. Sometimes you may have to make an investment in order to get you where you want to get to, and if that's a conclusion we come to, then of course we'll seriously, consider that. But I don't have any conclusions yet on what they've submitted.
The last question.
Mayor, Council is going to be talking about residency requirements for DC employees. Your take on that as far as taxing people who don't live in the city to work here, and also just a side note back to the Nats. Teddy in the presidential race, what do you think?
I think Teddy needs a new agent. On the issue, I mean, we've had so many discussions over the years about people living in the city, and I think, obviously, if we try to tax somebody who lives in Maryland or Virginia, it will be then cast as a commuter tax, and we'll probably wind up in litigation over that. There are other ways to look at it too, and I know this issue is something that Councilmember Alexander has looked at over time. But rather than penalize the folks who are outside the city, why not reward the ones who are in? And that is, look at ways to be able to say, if you live in the city, that we would provide ways of reinforcing the fact that you live in the city. If you look at our One City Action Plan, and if you will see probably certainly by the end of the month, probably before then, our economic development strategy. A big piece of that is increasing the number of people who work in the city and live in the city. Right now, it's slightly below 30%. We'd like to get it up to about 1/3, which is literally thousands of people, and the tax return dollars to the city would be astronomical as a result of just seemingly a slight increase. So I want to get us past just looking at how we, really hammer, outside the city and say, you know what, you live in the city, there's some things that we can probably do to reward you for making that commitment. We done? Thank you all.
Budget referendum, the budget autonomy referendum, can you just comment on that?
Well, I support budget autonomy.
How about the referendum, the idea of going about it in this manner?
We have a strategy, Mrs. Norton and I, that we've been working on. I think we've been working with people on both sides of the aisle on the Hill. I want to continue with that. I think I know what the sentiments are of people around the city, because I've talked to so many people about this. I haven't found a person yet who doesn't support us being able to have the ability to spend our own money. Every one of us, if somebody said, here's your paycheck, I mean, imagine if it were your paycheck and you had to ask somebody else to spend it. I'm sure you wouldn't take kindly to that. And I don't think anybody in the city takes kindly to us raising between $5 and $6 billion a year in this budget, and then not having the final authority to be able to approve it.
But since Congress seems unwilling to